Republicans, you have a question to answer. Do you believe in America's electoral system or not? We know Donald Trump does not, which is why he has been impeached for creating a phony story about election fraud and using it to incite his followers to overturn Joe Biden's victory. Not just incite them through the victory, but incite a mob to literally lynch the vice president. But how about Kevin McCarthy, Republican leader in the House? I note, leader in the House. What? Look at this picture. What the hell was Kevin McCarthy doing with Trump yesterday? Traveling all the way to Florida to see him. The House of Representatives has just impeached Donald Trump. 10 of McCarthy's Republican colleagues in the House voted for impeachment. Yet here is McCarthy in that palace of poor taste, Trump's Mar-a-Lago. Some political writers describe the Republican Party as split over Trump and his fascist behaviors. But it isn't true. A small faction is appalled by Trump and would like to evict him from the party. A small faction. Liz Cheney, Mitt Romney, maybe even Mitch McConnell, who admitted that Donald Trump incited the insurrection. They are the remnants of an effort the party made to civilize itself and strip itself of the most racist elements, or at least those who are visibly racist. But they lost control of the presidential nomination in 2016. And frankly, it looks like they've already lost this effort to banish Trump. A vote in the Senate this week suggests that there are not 17 Republicans ready to convict Trump. And after that vote, Kevin McCarthy rushed down to Florida, begging to rush down to Florida, might I add, to push Trump himself. That seals the deal. And it explains it too. Trump announced to McCarthy that he is ready to raise money and campaign for candidates to help win the House in 2022. Because let's just remember, historically, the other party wins in the midterm election. And clearly McCarthy has decided that this is where the future is in the Republican Party, with the radical right racists who love Trump, the seditionists. I can't tell you how sad and scary this is. We have to be very clear. The Republican Party is not divided. They're actually growing. The GOP is the party of Trump and will be unless somebody suddenly awakens and some awakening prompts Senate Republicans to convict Trump and block him from office ever again. But we can't hold our breath, which is why we need to draw this line very clearly everywhere we can. This is why AOC was correct in calling out Ted Cruz. Let's show that tweet real quick. We know he didn't personally try to kill her, but he was a key leader of Trump's phony campaign to discredit the election and cheer on his mob. What the hell was all that Ivy League education worth, Senator Cruz, if what you learned is that it's okay to lie to undermine the American Constitution? Do they not teach actions have consequences at Harvard Law School? This supposed institutionalist who tried cases before the Supreme Court flipped real fast. What is more unpatriotic than disrespecting the Constitution, Ted Cruz? Ted Cruz was not just complicit, he was an accomplice in this Trump conspiracy to block a legitimate election. For a brief moment after the Capitol was ransacked, it looked like maybe the Republican Party may have had enough. It was too embarrassing for them. But those 10 Republican House members voted for impeachment, and McConnell left the door ajar for Republican senators to convict Trump as well. But it looks like that moment has passed. McCarthy's visit to Mar-a-Lago says the institution of the Republican Party has embraced former President Trump and wants everything that he can do for them because they're dependent on that mob to get reelected in 2 years. The chair of the Republican Party said the same thing this week. Oh, and by the way, they even allowed that Trump was not automatically, he literally said this, the 2024 presidential nominee. So a man who embraced the Proud Boys, caged humans at the border, forced sterilizations, separated babies from parents, who lied his way into power and then tried to keep that power through lying, a man who trampled his own oath to uphold the Constitution, who might be compromised based on recent reports. So he is now the unquestioned leader of the Republican Party that used to be full of patriots and institutionalists and statists, because Republicans are too afraid or too ambitious to call him out. Where is your line? I don't like to make this comparison. It can sound paranoid and hyperbolic, but this is exactly how the Nazis came to power. Germans were angry and aggrieved. They even had a right to be because of the economy. But being angry never justified the phony stories the Germans were told about how their livelihoods and their country had been stolen from them by communists and Jews. They wanted to stop that steal. The result was 75 million dead. And those dead have lessons for us. Respect the truth. Don't look the other way at demagogues and deceit. And never leave the job of defending democratic values to someone else. There is no one else. There certainly isn't the Republican Party to defend the system anymore. The party of Reagan, racist as they were, there are at least lines drawn. So good for AOC for calling out Ted Cruz. And good for Nancy Pelosi for calling out McCarthy and his Republican cohorts for not doing something about Marjorie Taylor Greene. But she is low-hanging fruit. Let's make that very clear. They can let her go. How about calling out McCarthy for embracing Trump? You know, this new representative from Georgia who wants to pack her gun on the House floor, who takes QAnon madness as truth and supported the execution of Democrats. That's who they are willing to call out, this freshman Republican. But if that's not over the line, then what is? The Republican leadership gave Marjorie Taylor Greene her committee assignment. This woman who accused a teenage survivor of the Parkland High School shooting massacre of conspiring with George Soros, you know what that means, to take away her gun. She was placed on the education committee. Someone who went after students for fighting back against a mass shooting, who put in horrifying tropes, anti-Semitic tropes. She was put on the education committee. I am serious. Complicity, it comes in many colors. Colluding with those who undermine our electoral system fuels them. That is why Jimmy Dore and Joe Rogan are so dangerous. Having Alex Jones on isn't being open-minded. Having the Bugaloo boys on and saying, oh, you agree with a couple of things is not open-minded. It is enabling the enemies of truth, actual truth, and the opponents of democratic freedoms. And Spotify handing over hundreds of millions of dollars to someone who is complicit deserves calling out. Those are accomplices, and they need to be held to account. And institutions, whether it's Spotify or the GOP, who are complicit, they need to be stopped and called out as well. This is not a fight within the Republican Party. They are not divided. The Republican Party is growing. These young patriots who are getting elected, literally elected, were radicalized online. This is the danger. The Republican Party appears to have decided that deception, racism, and complicity with sedition are all okay. And the rest of us are left with only option. No, it is not okay. It is not okay. And if the Democrats don't do anything other than go for the low-hanging fruit like Marjorie Taylor Greene, and they don't call out the Republican leadership for enabling this and being complicit because they're more concerned with growing the Republican Party that they thought was dead, they are not divided. They are on a roll right now. And if they don't have a line, then we have to draw ours. And that is why we have to keep holding our lawmakers accountable and calling them out the way AOC did, but also calling out the Democrats who are literally doing nothing but the low-hanging fruit right now. Thanks for watching and listening to The Nomiki Show. But remember to click like and subscribe on YouTube, and please share on social media. If you're not already a patron, please join us for as low as $5 a month on patreon.com/The Nomiki Show for early and special content. That investment makes a huge difference. We are not corporate media raking in the dough. It's really you guys that are keeping us going. So please consider being a patron. And to our current patrons, thank you so much. We are incredibly grateful to you. We also now have swag. So check us out on thenomikishow.com to get your mugs, your totes, and your stickers.